Hi, everybody, and welcome back to a Delve Deeper, where today we're talking about something that is out of this world. And as I'm sure you can tell by the fact that we don't have an intro, this is some shit we can't make up. I'm here with my co host, Joey,
Absolutely. Hello there.
and today we're going to be talking about the UAP hearing that took place on November 13th, 2024, where they dropped some bombshells. And just like when they told us aliens were real in 2020, felt like nobody could care enough. Well, we care enough, at least enough to do a podcast on it.
Oh, yes, sir. We sure certainly do because this is a big one, boys, gals, and non binary pals. We have got a ton to go over today specifically. And I have to give you the fact I'm sorry. I know you guys were expecting a haunting files from The Exorcist, but this is just too damn much to not cover after what, a week, about a week of this stuff coming out. It's been day in day out, coming in and out with the pictures and the files and all sorts of craziness that have been coming out in the last week.
Oh yeah, it's insane. I know on November 19th, they straight up brought in the new head of Arrow and the CIA, like ex-CIA director, and just like grilled them. Like,
Oh yeah, that to say that they were grilled would be an understatement. They were actually massacred, slaughtered, and
yeah.
it was pretty funny. And for those of you that maybe don't know, I'm going to state this right now. If you know that the UFO term, unidentified flying object, did get coined way back in like 1960s, and kind of went
Yeah.
with the whole Betty Hill thing Betty and Barney Hill that we were talking about. They really centralized that idea, and that was when that was coined. Earlier in 2020, they actually changed UFO to UAP, which was unidentified aerial phenomenon, which then got changed
Anomalous.
again this year, anomalous.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
unidentified anomal uh, phenomena, and
Anomalous
so
phenomena.
it is just everywhere right now because we just had the biggest drop that I want to talk about first, Nate. Aliens are in the water. They are in the water, and they have been told. I have been told very many things after listening, but the fact that we have like tons of these new photos come out, and one of the biggest things that people are talking about right now that I know you guys probably are going to be hearing all over TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, all that places, you're going to hear about them be like, oh, they're in the water. Yes, yes, but
Yes.
in a little bit different of a way than you might think. With a lot of the stuff that was said in those 2 hours during that hearing, a lot of it has to be broken down. And like, I've watched this video 2 hours. I've watched it about like 6 or 7 times over the past week. That's like once a
Yeah,
day.
I haven't
Okay,
watched it
like I've
quite
been
that many,
obsessed.
but I've watched it at least three because I watched it twice by myself and I made my wife watch it with me once because I was like, no, this is, you don't understand.
Yeah, and after breaking down some of the stuff, some of the mumbo jumbo you'll hear them talk about, like if you had any family in like military and kind of those branches, you'll understand more so than what they're talking about when it's like some of the stuff is kind of, they word it in a way that's hard to understand if you don't know the terms that they're using. But one of the main things,
Right.
like I said, is the whole water bit, and you will hear that everywhere. It's been going around like crazy, like wildfire. But the thing that
Or
they
the
talk
fact
about
that
specifically,
they use so many acronyms. Like for instance, I used one earlier, ARROW. Well, that's because it stands for All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office.
yeah,
They talk about
mm-hmm,
UAP, which is Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, NHI, which is Non-Human Intelligence.
yep.
There was a lot
They use a lot of words and a lot of things that aren't um, very publicly
necessary.
known, and they say those things to kind of derive, people are going to be watching, so they're using it to derive and speak specifically within the terms that they have developed in their branches. So if those come up, you'll understand when we're talking about them why we're bringing them up and why it's important. um
Exactly.
But I mean, so Nate, where do you want to start off on this, buddy?
I want to start off by saying I've watched a few different types of hearings like this before, and I gotta say the panel on this one I was so for, because it didn't matter if in their day to day lives and every other hearing they're in that they're Democrat, Republican, this, that, or the other. They were so solely focused on answering this question that that stuff never even came into play. They said they were going to be bipartisan at the very beginning of the meeting, and they fucking were. So kudos to them.
Yeah, well, it. There is some stuff that was going hard, honestly,
Oh
during
yeah.
this whole thing.
They started with a little bit of like back information, what going back a little bit to that one that they had back in 2020, where they first told us, "Oh yeah, aliens are real." Specifically they're saying non-human intelligence, which I don't know, that term has a lot of leeway. I'm like, dude, my fucking Apple has non-human intelligence, you know what I mean? I don't
Yeah,
even have an
well,
Apple, but
and we get that a ton with like the way that they speak because it's the same thing as like if you also heard when they were talking about oh, what was it? When they were chatting about like, oh well, have you communicated? And he goes, well, that's kind of a tough question because communication can vary between XYZ XYZ. You knew what she was talking
yeah.
about. That's not you.
Yeah,
That's you
exactly.
being
She wanted to know
plain
if you had a
dumb.
conversation. She doesn't want to know if it flipped you the bird. Like,
Exactly, man. It's over there just like it's one of those things, man, where it's like really, really, really difficult to really see these things and like that they're hearing about all these things. Like they know what you're
oh yeah.
talking about and they're really trying to like give these different things like they're giving off different signals and different stuff to kind of like again throw people off of what's happening and what they're allowed to talk about, which what they're allowed to
Oh
talk
yeah,
about is
she
really dumb in
yeah,
my
the
opinion at
the
least.
head chairwoman, Miss Mace, that was there. She let the one of the gentlemen, she gave everybody 5 minutes for questioning, and one of the gentlemen did his whole questioning, and at the end he goes, "I tried to trick an answer out of you, but I guess I couldn't get you." And he straight up like called that guy out, and I was like, "Yeah." But we still did get a lot of answers about a lot of things that were definitive yeses. So,
Yeah, we definitely did get a lot of stuff like that that was definitive and made a lot of sense in my opinion, and a lot of that stuff ended up again on a lot of TikToks and people doing different stuff. You'll see it everywhere. But one of my favorite things is like specifically one of the main guys that we're talking about is Elizondo, who is like previous. He's the main guy that gets to speak on all this stuff. He has most of the majority of the kind of the stage, honestly, and we have some other people too that were kind of um kind of talking in and out. But the best part for me, hands down, is the main woman Mace that was going on. She kicked ass so hard to get this information out there, and it was so awesome to see her work and kind of like viewing her over and over and over and over again. She was just like terrific, terrific. And honestly, like I said, she's with all the stuff that she was stating and everything, she was killing it up on that stage on that in that courtroom, man. I'm telling you, she was probably the number one for me. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of this lady that was taking over. So she did awesome. Um, one of the main things that we were kind of talking on earlier, and me and Nate have been kind of talking about this like over the past week or so, is like this also has been really really cool because it's also a lot of the base testimony comes from David Grush or Grush back in July of 2023, and he was the whistleblower guy that was like, here's all the stuff they're not talking about, and really really did open up this whole new discussion that came out this year, opened up the doors wide open, and he did not hold back. He did his best to answer everything. David Grush, he did the probably the best whistleblowing that I've seen in years of my life, and he presented so much like insight and evidence and all these things. Like, yes, he couldn't speak on certain things to an extent, but he was way more open to talking about everything compared to this other main stage guy. Like I said, oh, his name is so difficult to say, but um, but he was really interesting to kind of hear from back in 2023, and now with this hearing now, one of the main stakes that we're kind of hearing is like the absolute yes. We know that there is things that are coming that have been here that we have no idea where they've come from. So I like I said, I do really want to get into the fact that again, like we have definite yes from these guys that are no joke. Like these are high promoted people. Like if you have ever seen military stuff or been inside military branches, these guys are up there. Okay, so they when you are taking their testimony and their stuff that they're saying, you take it fucking seriously because they are up there. They're credible people for sure.
Oh yeah, they heard from former national security advisors, former Navy commanders. They heard from the CIA director. They've heard from former DoD people, Department of Defense. Um, they heard from like these super high ranking people. Um, that like retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who who affectionately earned the nickname CEO of the ocean, which I think is hilarious now, considering there's aliens there. Wonder how they feel about that.
Oh yeah, I know.
They had a author there, a former DoD official, a former NASA like UAP like employee, like somebody who is does like designated to a UAP task force group, which is insane that that even exists
Well,
because we weren't told
we
that.
can't even let go of the idea too that they also revealed that recovery has harmed quite a few people,
Oh yeah, they said people were feeling biological effects.
which biological effects, if you're not in tune with like military stuff, it can get down to the point where it is like physically altering your like cancer cells, stuff like that,
Yep.
accelerated um cell growth or decelerated cell growth. You it can affect things like your blood coagulation. All that kind of stuff is all classified underneath biologics.
Right.
So when they say biologics, it's not, oh, they got cut on the arm. It's something's fucking wrong with their body, their internals, their organs, their skin, their whatever it is.
There's a
There could be,
noticeable
yeah.
physical change.
And a lot of their stuff, like they were saying in that hearing, like they got paid under the table to just keep quiet.
Oh yeah, what I think is funny is they were like, can you tell me more about this? Can you tell me more about this? And they're like, no, not in public, maybe in private. But when they were like, is there secret
Behind
program?
closed doors was their catchphrase.
Yeah, yeah. And then they're like, but was there secret programs you were hiding? Is there stuff you guys have intentionally hidden from Congress and the American people? And they straight up were like, oh yeah, like all the time.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing was during that entire hearing, Mace is just cracking down on these guys, and
Yeah,
just every 5 seconds, she's like, "Oh, did you hide? Are you hiding information from the American people?" Yeah,
yeah, yeah. We
like no
we
hesitation,
straight up are.
no nothing. It was just like straight up. Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
and
I can't tell you behind. I can only tell you that behind doors.
right. And
It's
what's
like,
crazy
ugh.
is that UAP task force I talked about is actually part of like the Pentagon. You know, the same Pentagon that has failed 7 audits in a row to try and find their 824 billion, that's with a B, dollar budget that they can't explain where it went. They have no idea where it's gone.
Well,
For
I
7 years.
also love this so much because this is a commonplace thing that I personally put together. This is just me. You can come after me and say, Joey, you're absolutely fucking crazy. But if you remember, Nate, the 9/11 attacks also, now I'm really starting to sound like I've got tinfoil hat on. But the 9/11 attacks we had a plane hit the Pentagon, and that money, a lot of the money went missing, which they still tie back to today. So if you
Oh yeah.
recognize in like different documents, they cite that that money is most of what was missing during the 9/11 attacks, but somehow, Nate, it keeps growing. How does it
Yeah.
keep doing that? I didn't know that we had like it was so severe in 2001 that it's still sending shockwaves in the
Mhm.
Pentagon today. The hole must be just leaking money.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They're throwing money at something because they're also still the Pentagon. They're one of the highest government offices. They're gonna not get a budget. You know what I mean? Like that's not gonna happen. They're not just gonna be like, "Oh, fucking wing it.
Well,
There's duct tape
yeah,
at Walmart."
yeah.
Like
Well, and the thing too that really got me with this whole hearing as well is
Pardon.
the entirety of the when they were talking about the what was it? I'm blanking. Shit. They were
They
talking
talked
about
about a
some
lot.
stuff that was happening within the Pentagon, right? They were like, "Hey, this is what has been taking place. This is what we've seen. This is what we're seeing. This is what's going on."
Oh yeah, they
And
basically said that the uh office that they put there, ARA, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office,
mhm,
was having
yeah.
trouble finding its footing, and they believe that's due to leadership. And then they specifically said, "We can't tell if that's on purpose or not." So they don't know if he's malicious or incompetent, but either way they have
Well, one of the
changed
quotes
leadership.
that they had too was that it's somebody's fault. We don't know whose, but it's somebody. And it's okay. I'm sorry. You do not just trip on the street and lose $800 billion. I I'm sorry. I don't care if it's someone's fault. You don't lose that kind of money out of nowhere, and even if it was one person's fault, that man would have been publicly executed by the government 100%. Or I mean, 800 billion, that's a lot of money. And if you know how much the US is in debt, that's a lot of money to have go towards that. When you're speaking in the trillions, having a decent almost $1 trillion disappear is a very big impact for a lot of things. That includes like a ton of shit that we've been kind of struggling with as a nation for a long time. Um, but it does beg the question too, like with the UFO stuff, the UAP stuff. Sorry, the UAP stuff is that it's incredibly diverse. When they're putting it into words in this hearing, they're like, oh well, you know, what were we using money to recover things? Yes. And were they like, oh, is there UAP? Do UAPs exist? Yes. Now, I will state that they never explicitly say that aliens were real. That's not like from their mouth, they do not say aliens are real. They say that biologics have been found. Now, when they say that, that's them again trying to flip flop the script here. Kind of, is it is it biologics from an extraterrestrial source, or is it just biologics that are non-human? Which non-human biologics, by the way, people, could that could literally mean anything. Like the way that they kind of discreetly say everything, like I said, like the biologics, it could have been a rabbit. They could have said that because it's non-human. It's not a human. But the nice part about what Mace did and everything is they just cornered them this time in this hearing, where they're like, "Did you communicate with these non-humans? And did you do this with these people? Did you make contact? Did you do this? Did you find a body?" Specifically, she asks you, "Did you find a body?" And they say, "We found biologics, yes," which is crazy. It's insane because that part of everything just throws it so far out there for me, and it's so awesome that they were able to kind of corner them and get away from that. Oh well, it's just biologics, and they just slam them over and over and over until pretty much they were like, yes, we found craft. Yes, we found biologics in said craft. Yes, they are. Their UAPs exist. Non human biologics exist. Yes, we've communicated with them indirectly.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's crazy. When they talked about their uh the fact that like they again kind of back to that communication part when they were like sorry, one sec.
Oh, you're all good, man.
Goodness, having all sorts of issues today. All right, sorry about that. When they were talking about the um sentient ships almost, they were like that the ships were having biological effects including possibly affecting people. I was like, excuse me? Like they were like some of them were saying that they were like telepathically communicating with the ships.
Which is giving me Jordan Peele Nope vibes, by the way.
Right.
Which love that movie. Such a great movie. But to me, that is like one of the greatest films to show like an alien being. I think he does a wonderful job of being like the UAP craft in that movie is actually a beast. It's an alien creature.
Right.
So I love that. But
Well,
it
Mass
kind of gives
Effect
me
did
that
that
vibe
too.
so hard. Yeah, exactly. And it's just like the ships, because I will actually bring in to this point the pictures um, that have resulted out of the Navy that came into light this week as well, which show the Navy's pictures of them blowing something up
Oh
and
yeah.
then something coming out of the water,
Oh,
and it's
since it,
mind blowing.
since you're gonna put the pictures here, Joey, I will say I noticed something oddly similar in all those pictures that we talked about in our last episode too. That's oddly similar across all these eyewitness reports. They were awfully cigar shaped.
Every single one of them that I've ever seen or ever heard of, like, I'm gonna be honest here, Nate. One of my biggest theories that I have myself is that the saucer thing is it looking. If you look at a cigar sideways, it
Yeah,
kind of looks
exactly.
that way. So my idea with that is always just, yeah, it looks more like a disc when it's from the side, and they are, elliptical. So like the
Yeah.
cigar shape is something that reoccurs all the time, and the fact that we're seeing them, and even with some of the interesting ones like the jellyfish stuff that have been coming out,
Yep. Or the
with people
orbs or
that have been
triangles.
talking about that, orbs, triangles, the formations, stuff like that. um it's very, very interesting to see, because the like for me, I love the jellyfish UAPs the most. They look the most alien to me. They look the most believable in terms of a biologic. They look the most credible in my opinion, just because we have no clue what to even call these things. We only have reference to a jellyfish, which if you look at one or you see one over like going over on TikTok or whatever, Instagram Reels, you'll see that it just looks insane. It doesn't look like a jellyfish, but that's the closest thing we can come up with, and that it looks similar to. But it's one of those things that have come through, and it just blows my mind. It really does, because we're finally seeing a lot of the stuff that Grush was saying in 2023 last year come out in flood.
Oh
This
yeah.
isn't just the reason we're talking about this now is that this wasn't just a, oh, they drizzled a little information here and there. No, they opened the floodgates, dropped all these videos, dropped all these photos, dropped all this stuff that was released open on their forums and stuff, and every
Oh.
single one of them has been confirmed to be a UAP that was documented, reported, and sent through not only the Pentagon, but just regular governmental branches like the Air Force, like the Army, the Navy, all these different sources. But the fun part that I love so fucking much is that this is from the Pentagon,
Oh yeah.
right? And we all talk about how the Pentagon is kind of like the top layer that we have. If you are in the Pentagon, you know shit. You're talking stuff, you sign paperwork. There is walls and walls and walls and walls to
Oh
cross
yeah.
before you get to any tidbit of information
And
out of there,
that's and
which is
that
basic Homeland Security, but
Yeah, you're right. And that is why at the very beginning they did something that is so like gangster in my eyes. They said that Michael Schellenberger guy delivered that day 12 pages from a special program that our government says doesn't exist, and it is called the Immaculate Constellation document. And you can go and
yep.
download that. You can
Mm-hmm.
find that. When he submitted it
Look
to them, he
that shit
submitted it to
up.
the National Archives, National Congress put it in their evidence, so now it's everywhere. I highly recommend you go
For
read it.
anybody looking to go look at it, read it. Read it,
Yeah.
read it, read it, read it. If you have any interest in the UAP thing, in the alien file stuff, anything, like I recommended the last Alien Files,
Yep.
the Project Blue Book.
Yes.
Guess what Project Blue Book was funded by? The Pentagon. The
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Pentagon funded the Blue Book file, and then they just said, "Oh, it's all bullshit, guys. Don't worry, it's nothing."
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I'm just saying the shit that we see in Project Blue Book is probably a little more connected than we thought
I do like
at the beginning. And like I said, it's great.
it is. I also like how a lot of them were like it's not like it used to be when you can just laugh people off as crazy conspiracy theorists about UFOs when this is everybody. They're like there's so many people,
Well,
so
it's
many
not just
sightings.
everybody in America, it's
Exactly.
in other countries. And they've even stated that China, Russia, and like other major countries have similar things.
Oh yeah. The new head of Arrow showed a graph, and it did show that like that area right where like right in between like Asia and Africa was a massive hotspot,
Hmm.
and then so is our coasts, mostly our
Well,
east
in
coast.
Africa, that area, by the way, Nate, is close to Zimbabwe.
Eh?
Mm, mm,
You're not
I just
wrong.
want to say that. Just want to point that out. And we talk about this. I'm just saying it's a good year for us alien
Yes,
folks.
it is.
I'm just saying.
Uh, I also don't want to talk about it too much, but I do want to reference it at least a little bit. I forgot to write her name down because I'm a jerk face or something. But I think it was like Boeste, Boeste, I believe. She was another person on the panel. And she straight up asked them. She was like, "Do you guys know of any breeding programs where they're supposedly taking our DNA and combining it with theirs or whatever?" And all four of the people that they were questioning at during this panel said no, but that was the fastest no I ever saw them give the whole thing. So it's a little sus, but we talked about that
My only
last
thing, my
episode.
only thing with it, and the only problem I have with this whole hearing is actually that part. Because they are under oath. If they did lie for whatever reason and it comes out later, they're held to a federal standpoint. If like they will be federally
Oh
charged
yeah, she straight up
if
was like,
they lie
"Okay, well,
about
I
any
hope
of
you
that.
guys are telling the truth, and if it comes out it is, I'll see you at that hearing." And then closed up all her stuff and like left, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, she was here with a mission." Like,
Dude, she was badass, boss bitch energy, and I am here for it.
yeah, it was insane. Um, the amount of stuff that they talked about too, living in the ocean really like is interesting to me too when you consider all the recent oceanic discoveries we've made. Not only have we discovered new species all the time in the ocean, we discovered the something called dark oxygen earlier this year, which just sits at the bottom of our ocean, which we didn't
Yep.
think was possible. We just discovered that new colossal coral. It's the biggest coral that's ever been. It's like oh, I just did a
It's the biggest life form on the planet.
yeah. Yeah, and it's one solid hunk of coral and it's like but it appeared out of nowhere. And that's a pretty big
Mm-hmm.
ass thing to just pop up. And they're like
Well,
it
a
has
big
to be
thing that I've been
300 years
seeing, yeah.
old.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
The one of the most interesting things that I've seen, um, that's come out in the theory community that has been very, 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 very prominent in the past week has been the idea that I don't know if you know too much about them, Nate, but like ocean eddies,
yeah.
if you know what those are,
Yeah.
it's essentially a deep sea black hole.
Yeah, I lived
That's
on
not
an
something you
island
come
for a
out of.
long time actually.
They're horrifying in
Oh yeah.
terms of like what they are. It's essentially a never-ending vortex that you can't escape or like well, we can't escape or enter. We
Yeah,
just know they exist.
it's assumed that's what the Charybdis monster from Greek mythology was just a massive sea eddy.
Ocean, yeah. And the thing that gets me really gets me going for this one is there's a big theory out there that since they're so similar in terms of like black hole and these things that we know that these guys admitted to the everyone there that
Yeah.
they are leagues ahead of us in technology. They would have that capacity to move through them flawlessly. So a lot of people are speculating that they're getting that maybe ocean eddies are more than we give them
Oh
credit.
yeah, and like an alien presence in the ocean could explain why the magnetic force in like Bermuda is so wacky. And science has always been like we can't explain that, which is also something they said at the beginning of this. Is a lot of this stuff is inexplicable, and then they said, and I quote, given the science currently provided to us. And I think that is important as hell. That wording in that specific way, with as careful as they are in their words in these types of meetings, that is
Hmm.
clearly like, yeah, science and knowledge and stuff like that is definitely being withheld from us.
Well, it's one of those things that lets us know like directly. It's them directly telling us like we as a species are not advanced enough to understand how these things function. Which one of the best parts that I have written down here, Nate, is when they're talking about G forces.
Oh yeah, that was a good
The
one.
G force thing where they're like, oh, once you hit 9 G forces, the body starts getting fucked,
Yeah,
you
you
know?
basically
And
start
there's a point
imploding.
where, yeah, will essentially die
Yeah.
after, I think they said like 2 to 3 minutes of exposure with no gear. And they even made an example of like the best planes we have out there, which I like planes.
Hey.
Sorry, it's me. But that even the best planes that we have in the military as of right now available to the public, quote unquote, um cannot withstand more than I think they said like 10 to 12 or something. And it was like but after if it goes beyond that point, it just blows up.
Right. It
It it cannot handle the pressure. But then they specifically say these things can go above 9,000 Gs and more.
Yeah, when you watch that
Which,
one that dives into the ocean with how hard it did
yep.
from like it was pretty close to the surface and how hard it hits that ocean, like it had to have been going more than anything we have can go.
But it also made a significantly smaller splash
Yeah.
because of it. Which again, I love the G-force thing because what they're implying is there's a mathematical thing out here that if we were able to go past 1,000 Gs, I'm pretty sure is what they were saying is even if we were able to go past that, it's no longer travel in a way that we understand. It's travel between pretty much fabric of reality that we know it. So one thing that I've been seeing around and circulate again is the theory that we're not seeing them move, we're seeing past images. they're going so fast that we're detecting that they're moving, but they're moving so quickly that we're only catching the anime style. We're catching the
Yeah.
previous just images of them being there. So that's what we're viewing, and that's what we can see with the naked human eye, and like cameras and stuff right now. But if we could see them going as fast as they are, they would essentially be moving through what even like Stephen Hawking and stuff are talking about with the fabric of the universe. They're not really moving linearly. They're moving in almost a fifth dimensional way, which is incredibly awesome. And like I'm a big science nerd. So for me like
Oh,
that is so awesome to know that like
oh yeah.
these
One
great
of
minds were correct at the end of the
Oh
day.
yeah, one
That
of the
that's true.
things that tripped me out in this meeting is they specifically asked, and they said it with this wording. I have it quoted here. It says, "Are you've described some of these non-human intelligences as trans-dimensional beings. Can you speak
Yep.
more on that?" And the guy was like, "I'm not
Nope.
qualified." And I was like, "Dude, fuck you! Like, who else is? Like, what do you
That's
mean?"
the thing that gets me just it gets me so much because it's like you say that, but that is exactly what I'm talking about. Is when you pierce through the fabric of like space and time,
Yeah,
like we're talking about, like the Hawking theories, Einstein theories, stuff like that of relativity.
Tyson.
You're piercing through. You're not like because if you think about it like this, I'm gonna explain it in layman's terms.
Pretend I'm a
We
5-year-old and
are
explain this to me.
exactly. That's kind of what it is. Is like essentially time and the universe we live in is like a blanket, and we are only at the point where we skid along the top, right? We go forward, but we can't go backwards. That's the thing. With time is you can't go backwards. You can only go forwards. Now, theoretically, yes, you could go backwards if you knew how to pierce through that blanket. So if you were a needle and you were going through and you're just gliding across this blanket, the only way you would be able to go back would be to pierce through the blanket, go all the way through, and go backwards.
Exactly.
Because then it changes your direction. That would change your direction. Now imagine that these UAPs are like a sewing machine. They can go
Oh,
in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out as they please. And dimensionally, yeah, it just pretty much says if they're going in and out, in and out, in and out, we catch glimpses of them, right? We're on surface level. We see the needle poke in and out. We don't see the needle when it goes through because we can't see the needle. The needle is not there. So it's really interesting because when you view it like a sewing machine, and you can only see the needle on a two-dimensional plane, when it goes through, you can only see the little pinpoint, the mechanical pinpoint. So when it comes back up, that's what we see. When it goes back down, you can't see it anymore, which is explainable to a lot of to me in a lot of theories of relativity and whatnot. Is because it's one of those things that like we could never truly understand how that works. I mean, I don't know how it works. I'm not a mathematician or anything, but the equations that we have and the things that we do have available to us do prove that it is correct. That is something that is possible, but how is it possible? We don't know. But it's so interesting to me because that is the best way I can describe when you say interdimensional beings moving through space and time is the sewing machine method. Just you see it sometimes, you see it not. So that's why I think we get so many videos and stuff of where they pop up and then they're gone. They pop up, they're gone. It's like they're here and there and everywhere so quickly, so fast, and then they're just out so quickly, just as fast, almost like a ghost. And the nice part about that I love about this research too is it does tie into a lot of the haunting stuff that we talk about too, where I also believe that this theory of relativity does have to do with piercing the veil of the paranormal in general. So if you took it and let's just say like, again, using the bed sheet thing and you're a needle, imagine when you pass, one of the theories is that when you die, you pierce the blanket and you're on the other side. So a lot of interesting stuff. There's a lot of interesting stuff with relativity that I'm a big math guy. I love science, but I also love the paranormal, and that is the one thing that I can see consistency in with the paranormal stuff that we're seeing. And with the confirmation of the alien stuff with this interdimensional stuff, it brings to light a lot stuff that like maybe we're not thinking on, like I said, like the haunting stuff. Like to me that could very well be beings that have pierced the veil, that they can interact with us, but they're not going to come back up through, right? Because they're it's basically you're taking energy and transferring it back and forth, so they can probably do the same thing where they're like, they're not as often, not as powerful, right? Because you think an alien ship like that or a UAP is going to be able to go in and out as they please. If we're low energy beings after we die or something, like to me, I think we could pierce back through for very brief moments, and that's where we get those picture sightings of people seeing like apparitions and whatnot. But I just think it's really cool. I think it's super cool because it does bring to light for me a lot of different stuff that maybe we've seen and we just put them in two different categories, but maybe they're more alike than we think. And that was just probably one of the most exciting parts for
Oh yeah,
myself. And that's just me, that's my theories, but
dude. No, yeah, that's
it is very
amazing.
awesome.
You know who else would be excited by that theory, Joey? A man in 2013 at MIT named Gary Nolan. So he used Moore's law, which basically suggests that the linear regression of genetic complexity, um, like it basically doubles or halves in complexity after every so many years, right? Depending on what we're talking about. And in the case of
Yes.
human DNA sequencing, it was like half as complex every 367 million years. It
Yeah. Yeah,
doubled,
yeah.
right? So they dated it back to the very base, and I brought this up to you last week after, but I didn't get to say it. But this kind of ties all back here, so it's interesting. Doing according to Moore's law, and this was done by MIT in 2013. Human DNA is 9.7, give or take 2.5 billion years old. And since the Earth is only 4.5 billion years old, that raises a lot of other questions. But the most interesting thing is nobody's been able to technically disprove him. But there's lots of theories saying the primordial soup was more complex than that, so we started at a different thing, and yada, yada, yada. But I still think that with your theory, if that is how the UAPs are working, that would explain that.
It would explain a lot in my opinion. And like I said, like I've done this, I've researched this stuff before, and I get really, really into like certain niche things, and this is just one of them. That like I haven't heard it spoken out before with anything that I've seen on like science talk shows, stuff like that, other podcasts. They don't really talk about that side of things because they don't think they're relative.
Yeah, I've never heard it described that way, but I love it, man. I'm gonna be spreading it around.
That like again, if we can only see the top layer, what's going on underneath? And with like you're saying like dark matter and like anti-oxygen stuff, like that's all on the bottom. And that's stuff we can't access but we know is there. So it's again one of those things where it's like we have so much confirmation with everything that's saying, "Oh, there's a bottom layer." And it's like it bothers me because I'm like obviously like we can only see into the top layer. Um but it also is really funny because with that same relativity stuff, we can see both third dimension, second dimension, first dimension. Going down is fourth, or fifth. I think it's
Yeah,
fifth going down. And so it's like,
I think you're
it's
right.
so incredibly weird to know that, like, oh, what's beyond what we can see is a completely new world, which with all this stuff going on, makes so much sense to me because it also brings up a good point with a lot of people that say like aliens are interdimensional beings, right? It brings to light
Right.
so much more than what we've seen with the haunting stuff. I mean, I've heard the theory go around. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but like like I've heard some things around the bush, so to speak. That's like, what if some of the cryptids that me and you have covered are some of these beings that are able to pierce that veil?
Or some of their experiments.
Yeah, something like that. Like what if they created something genetically that was like, I don't know, a Mothman? And
Yeah, for real. The only problem I think I have with that part of the theory is if aliens are responsible for ghosts, I really have to question what ectoplasm is now.
oh boy. Oh no, we're gonna have some. It got all over my face. Like, god damn, that's insane. That's crazy, dude. But yeah, I am definitely a believer in the theory of relativity, and even though people have tried to disprove it a lot, and they're like, "Oh, it's just a bunch of hooey," I think that it's really cool. I think it plays a very big part in our understanding of things. I don't think it gets talked about enough. I just don't.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you. And I love that theory. I think it definitely makes sense here. I don't want to gloss over it, but I am gonna bring it back to the UAP hearing.
Yes, please do.
Um, I think it was also really interesting that in this hearing specifically, they were talking again. They were talking about the last one where they straight up revealed that there's elements of the U.S. government that are engaged in an active disinformation campaign to discredit UAP whistleblowers, going so far as having them threatened and stuff. And that is insane because everybody has like been like, no, we don't want to blow, be a whistleblower, basically is what they kept calling them,
Uh,
because we're scared for our life. And so they created the Safe Airspace for Americans Act, and I think that is really cool, but it should have been done 50
Nate,
years
are
ago.
you telling me that our government would kill our own people to keep information quiet? I think you're giving them like I feel like you're assaulting the government right now and you might be put on a list. I'm just saying.
Oh, that I'm sure that happened a long time ago.
I was gonna say, I was like, I go into my car, it blows up tomorrow. They're like, oh, he said too much, and you're just like, oh man, he killed himself, and that's they're like, oh, he was deranged, he
Jesus.
was insane, he was crazy,
It was
and he
crazy.
didn't know what he was doing.
He was ranting like a
He was on
madman.
all these medications. He just couldn't take it. He couldn't take it anymore. Are you, like, I'm
That's
telling you, I wouldn't
crazy.
leave my cats. If you don't see me again, Nate, or the people listening, just know that I was taken away by the theory of relativity police, and they got me. That's it. They got me.
They got me.
Yeah,
Those
I know. I
bastards.
know. They're gonna get me, and I'm gonna get brutally beaten. They'll be like, "Yeah, you know what? You're gonna go back on a
Right.
Delve Deeper podcast, and you're gonna tell them that none of it's real. None of it's real." I come
That's
back and
right.
I'm like, "Cryptids are
That's
real."
right. Oh, speaking of the government making things crazy and taking things away and all that good stuff. um the like four different reports that they talked about that they were just like, oh yeah, the government absolutely covered that up, was like the one guy was talking about the email he received. This happened back in 2015. He was the commander of the Navy Meteorology and Oceanography Command, all right. He was one of the people that was there yesterday. I can't remember if it was Alexandro or Gallaudet, but anyway, he was basically doing a military exercise with the USS Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group, and they received an email on a Navy secure channel, and it was sent to all Navy commanding officers with a subject line that read in all caps, "Urgent, safety of flight issue." And basically, what the email had said was, "Hey, if you know what these are, please tell me ASAP, as we've had multiple near midair collisions. If not resolved soon, we'll have to shut down the
Well,
exercise." And attached to that was what is now known as the Go Fast
well, Nate,
video.
if you
But
remember,
he used that
I
specific
also.
instance to
Oh, go ahead.
say
Sorry.
they are not trying to hide. They're not trying to be sneaky. It's almost like letting your prey see
Mm-hmm.
you as an intimidation
Mm-hmm.
type tactic, and that's
That's showing somebody
crazy.
your big gun and being like, "I want you to fuck with me," and they're like, "No, I'm okay." They're like, "That's right," and they're like, "That's right, pussy," and they go, and they just spit on us, and we're like, "Oh, thank you." Like, but that brings me back to the story that we had in Alien Files 1 that I told with the Air Force captain, if you remember. He saw them. He saw them going through their formations. And to me, that's pretty cool, man. Like I said, back to that story in Alien Files 1, man. That thing I told about the captain, it just confirms to me the realism of these stories. And like I said, I heard that from a girlfriend's dad, and he was working as a captain
Yeah.
for the Air Force, and he was like, "Yeah, they were so close, we had to veer off into the valley." That is
Yeah. So
so
it's
cool to know that we like talked about all these different things, and it's like bam, 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 bam. These things are all true that are going on, and I was like, that's why we had to talk about it, folks, because we just had to talk about it because it's just like there's so much that me and you went over, Nate, in just the two files that we have, and there's like
oh yeah, that got
confirmed,
confirmed.
confirmed shit, and it was like
Yeah.
not even what we haven't even had this podcast more than like a few months, man. I'm like, God damn.
I know it's
uh,
crazy, and it's doing so well. Which thank you
mm-hmm.
everybody. Quick little plug. Um, and then they even talked about incident that was like mass reported last
Yep.
December, and covered
Mm-hmm.
up less than 12 months ago over Langley Base in Virginia, where a swarm of drones that were 20 feet long, moving at least 100 miles an hour at an altitude of over 3,000 feet, just flew by the military base. By the way, that military base, Langley Base in Virginia, is where we keep our like some of our best
Heaviest weaponry.
striking planes.
Heaviest weaponry.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the shit. Like when the
Yeah.
world is going to shit, they're releasing that. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly. And
crazy.
they straight up were like, a large number of these sightings have showed up around military restricted airspace or known military operation zones, especially ones that had nuclear activity. And that's like, what the fuck? Why is this not told us before? I know we can't really do anything about it, but holy shit, that's a big
Yeah.
deal. What are we
Well,
gonna
one of
do
the
about
biggest
it?
things too was because of that they did get in trouble for that. Because of the
Yeah,
2023 hearing, they did get in trouble for that. And that was a big thing that caused this hearing to happen. So, in a weird
exactly.
way, thank you for fucking up Pentagon. That was really cool of you. But
Yeah.
so it's really funny because it's like some of the stuff that we're hearing, and like, by the way, I haven't heard about what David Grosh is doing now. He's no idea where he's at. We'll see if he's still good.
Oh, he's dead,
Uh,
I'm sure. No, I'm
I'm just
just
saying,
kidding.
shot on sight, man. Shot on sight. I'm just telling you, some of this stuff is crazy, and like, there's just so much. I mean, dude, with everything that we've even talked about now, is like a solid third of it or so. It's insane.
Right.
But with
Oh,
everything that was going on with, I kind of want to move on to the questioning, like the open questionnaires that were happening,
oh my gosh.
which that was
Yes, please,
so
let's.
cool. By the way, so awesome to hear everyone just being like, "Okay, was this something that really happened? You know, did you?" Oh, I can't remember the name. But he was one of the guys was asking about. He was like asking about the biologics thing. He was bringing it back to the biologics.
Was it
I think
Moskowitz?
so. I believe so. And he was
Yeah.
bringing it back to the biologics, and they just kept trying to dodge the question. But as soon as he would dodge that question, dude, he hit right back again with another one, and it was some of these answers that they had for us were insane when they were talking about like, oh, are these have we had biologics for like a really long time since Roswell. I think that's what he brought up was like, have we had something since Roswell?
Right.
And he just straight went, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and they were like, "Can you tell us about retrieval?" And he was like, "No." And you're like, "Can you tell us, have you done successful retrievals?" And he was like, "Yes." So he was like confirming things without confirming too much. He was like, "Yeah, we've retrieved stuff. I'm not going to tell you what it is though."
And the nice part about that though is because since they asked so many questions, we have a clearer picture of the puzzle. When they were asking about the
Right.
stuff that the retrieval, we got into it and we didn't really even talk too much on this yet. But like the again, like the injuries that happened from it, people got paid for that to hush hush. But that brings to a good point of when they're retrieving things. They also mentioned, are we reverse engineering retrievals for our own benefit? Yeah, yeah, they said that. So this is what really kind of ties it all together is because they keep asking these questions that are little pieces of saying, yes, these are UAPs. We have no idea where they come from. And then it's like, oh, but they've emerged from the
Right.
ocean a ton. So we can safely assume they're not coming from outer space. They're coming from within the planet, which brings forth
Yeah.
I'm just saying a hollow earth theory. Whatever happened to the Journey to the Center of the Earth movies?
Listen, the world's a donut, and I refuse to believe otherwise.
Actually, the
No,
world's a dinosaur shaped world.
it's a chicken
Yeah,
nugget. It's a dino
yeah.
nugget. Um, uh, but yeah, well, and then you go into like, and people are like, I don't know, that seems a little far fetched, and then you're like, okay, less than 10% of our oceans explored, and you're like, oh shit,
Because we can't go that deep.
like,
That's the thing is we can barely
yeah,
go that deep because the pressure is so crazy. Which, huh? Pressure like air pressure, like G force,
right,
things that can
you
withstand nine
definitely,
thousand G's going underwater that we cannot physically go under. Hmm.
I wasn't really thinking about it too hard until now, but you know what? A lot of the features of quote of the grays would definitely fit an underwater sea creature, deep sea creature.
I was gonna
The
say.
black eyes that could
I was
probably
gonna
filter
say.
out light in different
Mm-hmm.
ways.
That's what I'm saying,
Yep,
dude.
the gray skin from lack of sunlight, the elongated heads and smaller bodies due to the pressure. It totally would.
That
That's pretty
brings
crazy.
interesting thing. Hold on, I'm looking at it right now.
The grays are mermaids, confirmed. No.
So one of the okay, so this is something that's like been kind of bothering me, and I know people are gonna be like, Joey, why are you thinking about other things other than aliens right now? But the biggest thing that I have is like some of the ancient water civilizations that have disappeared. And
Atlantis.
like I said, maybe we should start thinking about that a little differently. What if
Oh
their
yeah, if they did find
ships.
a way to survive or something and
Well,
sink.
my idea was like, what if these big structures that used to be there were UAPs themselves? They could visit, they could go underwater. If they were big enough cities, and like a lot of these cities, like Atlantis and stuff, have always been described as a circle, a giant circle
Oh
platform
yeah.
with a giant city on it. Now, if you could just take that, dome it, do whatever they're doing, and go underwater, it would be a city that disappeared overnight. We have no idea where it's at.
You're right,
And if it went deep enough, and it could go deep enough, who's to say that it doesn't exist right now? Just saying.
dude. Blowing my
I've
mind.
been I've been going too hard. Like I said, Nate, I've been in the deep end. I've been yeah
Hey
yeah
oh no.
exactly. Been in the deep end here, man. So I've been going really hard, and like it's made me think a lot on the different things that we know in history. Like it brings to light so much stuff to me that I'm like, I don't know, man.
Oh
It's
yeah, like the
crazy.
technological jump we were talking about. They specifically were talking about research and development at one point, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we've used their technology to develop some stuff. We've tried to reverse engineer some of their technology." And then going back to our last Alien Files episode, again confirming something we already said, it explains the jump that, well, from the Industrial Revolution, we didn't have that technology, and now in the
Well,
last
like I
50
said,
years, we've
like
jumped
from Betty and
easily 10
Barney
times
Hill,
ahead.
we had very basic planes. After the Roswell and Betty and Barney Hill stuff, we came out with the stealth bomber not too long after,
Yeah,
which is highly advanced and one of the most advanced aircraft we've ever created. You're telling me that we just managed to do that on our own? Just saying.
yeah, just happened to find
Just
it.
saying. And for it to withstand the amount of G's that it does, it's suspicious when you look at it. And again,
Yeah,
I'm just saying, my government, not my government,
not my
they would never
government.
do something like this. And
Right, but you, random listener, your government could possibly, potentially, maybe.
exactly. The government wouldn't lie to you. Quote my favorite YouTuber Wendigoon. But yeah, man, it's so
I just think
much.
it's funny saying that right after hearing the UAP, where they were straight up like, "Oh yeah, we've lied to you guys like a lot."
Yeah, exactly, man. Look, like I say, dude, it's so crazy to me because it's again one of those things where we're like, we just learned so much, and like I get that we're taking so much into account for just the UAP stuff, but like go back in history and look at all these different things, and you'll find connections to them that are just like way too apparent now. That makes sense to me. Like I'm sorry, it just blows and boggles my mind because I've been going so hard with these like theories and like these different things that have been going through my mind. And if I found out within the next 30 years that all of this was true, I wouldn't be surprised. That's what I'm trying to say. Is
Oh
like
yeah,
it'd be
easily. I don't
crazy.
think it'll take years. I think we're going to have public contact within the next 30 years for sure. I think either we'll be amongst them or they'll be amongst us or something like that within the next 30 to 50 years. I think how fast it's been moving, because you got to think they just told us it was real in 2020, and now they're like, we have bodies, we have retrieval, we have multiple ones, we have this, we have that, and it's only been 4 years. So if it keeps moving at that type of a progression, hopefully it does, because even the panel was like, we need more of these types of hearings. Quit treating us like children and sending in whole document reports that are all so overclassified that it's like 2 lines of text.
Yeah. Mhm. Well, it's also really interesting that we've been pushing for years now the idea of trying to find a neutral conductor with no need for like heat, because if you
Right.
know if you've been electric into like electrics and stuff, like clay is a very awesome conductor, but we can't use it because it
Oh yeah.
doesn't bend.
Cold too.
You can't bend it. You can't bend it without it breaking.
Right.
So one of the most interesting things that I've seen in the past years that we've been evolving very quickly in the field of like finding a neutral conductor that can conduct without super cold or super heat. Because if we find that, that
Right.
is one of those things where we're like we'd be at the point where we'd have the ability to shift and use the magnetics of the world on its own without needing to super freeze or super heat something. So neutral conductors are something that's like
Right.
theorized. It's not even a real thing that we know of, but it is something that's like it's very
Well, if
interesting to
we
see them push so hard to try and find it. So it does give me some indication that they're
basically
trying to
if we
find it.
find a neutral conductor, we're going to be in like, Jetsons times. There'll be fucking neutral conductors are what's going to make like
Yeah,
hovercraft possible and
exactly, and
stuff like
that's
that.
what we've been doing. That's what Japan does right now with some of their bullet trains. Is they use partial conductivity from the heat of the wheel to go as quick as they do. So the fun, interesting portion of all this is that why have we been pushing that so hard when it's only a theory, right? It's like
Right.
it's one of those things again that really interests me because it's like this is not something that we know exists to a public. So why would you wait? They've spent way less money on other things to find that are like, like actually we know is real. Where this thing we've put
Oh
a
yeah.
bunch of money and time into finding a neutral conductor. But the thing that's really funny is that, like, again, it's not something we know is real. So somebody knows
Right.
something and they're
Well,
not saying something about it. But
that ties back to what Miss Mace said at the beginning of this hearing. She said, you refuse to tell us where taxpayers' money is being allocated, but we know that you don't have this $824 billion. So if you're spending a bunch of this money, which we have to assume you are on this program, but you're claiming they're not real, why are you spending money on it?
exactly.
So it's just that same thing. If it's really that not real, who would spend that much money?
Well, and that's
Like you
that's what
said,
it says.
somebody
It's
knows
somebody knows
something.
something and they're not saying it, or they're not asking the right questions and getting the right information. Just saying. Now, as much as
It's
I love it,
might be part of that reverse engineer.
exactly, and that's one of the things that I think is very interesting because if we can find that out, the advanced weaponry that the military could make with that would be eons ahead of everybody else, which I think personally is why they're looking for it so desperately, because I think every nation in the world is looking for it right now because they know it's a threat.
Well, if you think about it, since a neutral conductor would be so good at controlling stuff like that, that makes things that we've seen in science fiction possible, such as
Well,
lasers.
a
You know what I
neutral
mean?
conductor is
Like,
essentially activating infinite energy with a nuclear core, which
exactly. So that makes
you
so
have a
much possible.
nuclear core and you add that with a neutral conductor, it doesn't give off that much heat, or it gives off enough heat that it needs to be cooled so it doesn't explode. But because of that, it's in a neutral state, so you can't use all the energy in it. But if you could, you would be able to create things of essentially mass destruction. So, but it could also mean infinite energy, such as like infinite reason to move light years and stuff like that. Like we would be able to create stuff like
All
that.
right, Joey, you're the math man. What happens if I take that super powerful neutral conductor and I place it inside the Hadron Collider?
I think you would just blow up the planet. I'm gonna be honest. Uh, I'm also a very,
Yeah,
very big
probably.
fan of the idea that our world flooped in 2012. No, 2012, not 2020, 2012. So 2012, when we did the
No,
Hydron
that's when we
Collider.
actually flooped and we
Yeah,
lost the
yeah, in the
we
2012
lost that middle 20.
Mayan calendar. I don't believe that it was the world ending. I believe it was the world shifting because we did activate during that same
Oh.
year, by the way, close to December, again, by the way, the Hydron Collider did something that it never done before, and it smacked itself together. And they were
Yep.
like, "Oh shit! Oh, nothing happened." And then after that,
Oh shit.
and then all this stuff happened, and like we had like terrible shit go on and all this stuff. But like I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
what shifted us with our what's it called, the Mandela effect.
The Mandela
I
effect
think that
stuff.
really happened in 2012, and that was when it became like a huge hype. I think that it was like a shift or something. Well, I don't know.
Oh, I
That's my
totally
thing.
would buy
That's
that.
my whole thing. And you guys can call me
No.
crazy. You know what? I will wear this tinfoil hat till the day I die. But I do believe that the Hydron Collider smacked, and then it changed us over to a different. Almost like some things changed,
No.
but not everything changed. We went to like an alternate. Like we just went to the left a little. Yeah,
Yeah,
We
basically.
didn't change
And if
everything.
you believe in And if you believe in string theory, then that's not even a big jump for you to make. But what I think is really interesting too is in like the kind of like um not to steer too far off of it, but like the witchy world side of things, because that's what my wife's into. So I learn a lot, but she practices because I
Mhm.
ain't fucking up
Mhm.
because I don't want that juju.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
Um,
I'm there.
uh, but she said that basically there's like her and a bunch of her friends that do research on this type of stuff and all that found out that there's supposed to be another shift that happens, and it's been like 20 years of something crazy that's supposed to like come to an end and start a new cycle of new fresh stuff happening. So I'm hoping that happens, and with aliens being revealed, I gotta say, it's looking
Well, the
good.
thing that's
Like, that's
crazy
new and
too,
fresh for
we
sure.
know we now know all this stuff, right? And like I said, it's crazy to me because as much as I love this hearing and I love what they talk about inside of it, and they get all this cool information, new stuff that we're like, oh wow, this has like been confirmed after years and years and years of theorizing, is that to me it brings a new era of theories and new era of our understanding of what is possible, knowing that we've just confirmed interdimensions are real.
Right. Yeah. It almost confirms the parallel universe complexity of string
Yes,
theory.
sir.
Like, it almost
String
confirms, but we
theory
don't have
is
something.
very on the edge of it's very hard because string theory has this very finite ledge of is it real or is it not. String theory is very a little bit different than the theory of relativity, but they're similar enough that that thin line is going to be like we are almost one piece of information away from seeing if they align, and they're one of they're both sides of the coin, or that one information
Right.
could say string theory is correct and relativity is wrong, or relativity is correct, string theory is wrong. And that's what we're kind
Right.
of on the fence right now with the new information that we have.
And I think that once these UAPs are amongst us freely, just everyday life, I think that piece of information will fall into place and true utopia will begin. Or my other favorite theory will get confirmed, and we will just join a intergalactic, interdimensional population that's already been around, and things will get better, and we'll grow as a race
Yeah,
or a
yeah.
species. But that leads back to the whole we live in a simulation theory that the Anunnaki created and stuff like that. But none of that's been
I think
confirmed.
it's very interesting because it also brings to light a lot of big hot topic items right now is AI. AI made a huge burst
Oh
in the
yeah.
past few years, uh, and again, the government has put a shitload of money into it. So I believe
Yep.
with the AI rise, they're trying to acclimate us into saying like, okay, we can use AI to help us identify things that we have no idea how to comprehend, since a computer can comprehend thousands of times faster than we can. So if they can successfully build an AI that can learn and reverse engineer things, we can advance as a civilization. I believe they said it was about 500 times faster than normal.
Oh yeah, when AI becomes VI and the aliens become, just regular Joes, that's how we're gonna know that we've truly evolved and advanced
Yeah,
as a
and I'm gonna
species.
bring this back to a little thing I like to call. I don't really. I'm a big believer in a lot of things, but like one of the things that I really like mathematically is the belief of zero, that everything resets to zero at some point. So everything will go null eventually. So I think
Right.
eventually, as we're progressing, we'll be like, what if we become so advanced and we find another planet that's not so advanced? We go there, do our thing, and we just repeat the cycle. What if it's a cycle
Oh,
thing?
you mean like all the planets that we've been trying to look at that are in the habitable zone
Well,
in
if
case we
they're
need to leave
habitable and
Earth?
then you have people, those people aren't all going to have the knowledge of the universe. And if they do, or something crash
Right?
lands and you lose all your access to knowledge, you start over.
That's right.
Which
It only takes one bad day, folks.
apparently one wrong calculation, you pissed off your toaster, and now it's all messing with your ship. I'm just saying.
The risks I took were calculated, but boy, am I bad at math.
I was saying, man, it got crazy real fast, and like I don't have much left to say about the hearing itself because the hearing itself ended up really just confirming a lot of the things that we already kind of speculated. Like, and we talked about a ton of
Right.
it already, but like I said, it's like a lot of it got just
Um,
double confirmed for us.
right. And I know this is gonna be near the end of the podcast, but I want to touch on a few key points from the
Absolutely,
hearing that I
absolutely
think
go.
it's important everyone take away. Not only is there non-human intelligence, it is in our oceans, and we have made contact. Not only is there confirmed non-human biologics, we have made contact, and it has affected people and communicated with them in some way, shape, or form. um all of that, and also foreign technologies and the fact that they've been trying to reverse alien technology. These are all factual things that were confirmed during this meeting. I still highly recommend, if anyone is interested and you really want to know what all this stuff is about, definitely go look up both Project Blue Book and Project Immaculate Constellation. The second paragraph in the Immaculate Constellation lets you know, it starts with the sense of the contents of this report are very disturbing. So, fair warning, but it's something that I think people should know. I know it's hard to care because groceries are expensive, but don't let the downfall of capitalism lead to your ignorance of your ever changing
Yep.
surroundings.
And don't forget too, we did forget to mention that they mentioned the TUO, which is technologies of unknown origin. Just gonna throw that out there.
That's what it
Just gonna throw
was.
that out
Yeah, I was like NHI UAP. There was one I couldn't remember. TUO. Yes. So, but yeah, that was the everything I have.
there. Yeah, man. And like I said, you guys, if you have the time, read that 11-page document. Really, even
Super
if you're
worth it.
just gonna look at the tables, like the table one for sphere and orb sizes range from small objects to several meters in diameter. Speed capable of stationary hovering and rapid acceleration. Speed surpassing conventional aircraft have been noted. And you know, fuck it, I'm just gonna go through it. We got time. Signatures often lack
Yeah.
conventional signatures such as heat trails, electromagnetic effects on military electronics reported. Which something that doesn't need heat to travel is a neutral conductor. Just want to let that. Just want to let you know.
Boom.
Colors varied
Mic
with
drop.
gray metallic, grayish blue, white and yellow, and red, orange, red have been prevalent. Surface details range from completely smooth to reflective and having visible protuberances, appendages, by the way,
Yeah, multiple, as in more than one.
concavities and openings. Behaviors: high maneuverability, including abrupt direction changes and the ability to hover, have often observed to fly in complex geometrical formations and operate in tandem, which goes back to when I remember we were talking about in Alien Files 1, that ship that disappeared. Like, it didn't disappear, all the crew
Yes.
disappeared after they saw an orb of light that they observed as God go above them in a geometric formation. Interesting.
Right.
Biological effects. Close observers reported feelings of unease and electric device malfunctions. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Interesting stuff.
Getting nauseous, your cell phone's not working, your watch stops working, like with Barney and Betty Hill.
Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, your compass ain't doing too well, bud. And the second
Yeah.
table is for the disc and saucer, which I like to throw the disc into the oval, tic tac, and cigar shape, personally.
Yeah, I could see
I
that.
like to put it in that. Now, saucer has like the top and the bottom, like a bowl. It's kind of different. I
Right.
say it's different enough, but the disc is definitely, I think, just a side view of the other ones. But for table two, the
I
sizes
agree.
generally ranges from a few meters to over 20 meters in diameter. That's big. If you don't know
Yeah.
meters, meters are big. Uh, Speed exhibits capabilities from both hovering to high speed flight, often making sudden sprints. The signatures are radar detection varies, visual sightings are more common. Some reports include a humming sound. which we do hear that a lot.
20 meters is 65 feet, by the way.
Yeah, thank you for Americanizing. And the colors are metallic silver or gray is common, though some have been reported as emitting light or changing colors. The surface details or variations include smooth, featureless surfaces to be visible with domes or segmented panels. Behavior types are sudden vertical ascents, hovering, silent operation, and some reports indicate the ability to become invisible or blend into the sky. Pretty weird, huh?
You know what's interesting? Hearing you read this and thinking back on the meeting, they specifically said that the triangle things that they saw were drones.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, it was a swarm of drones that were triangular shaped. But they have classified everything that's been a cigar, a tic tac, an orb, a disc, a saucer as UAP. So that makes me wonder.
I think that they definitely shot some down. I
Yeah.
would not be
Oh, yeah,
surprised if they did.
absolutely.
And they're like, "Oh man, that's a slip up right there. That's a good slip up."
Yeah.
The
Caught him.
yeah, the unique emissions for the disk and saucer is instances of electromagnetic interference in nearby devices and vehicles, which Betty and Barney Hill did have problems with their car too.
Yep.
So this is something that's very interesting. And the atmospheric.
Oh, man, I guess I'm glad neither had a pacemaker in
Oh
it.
yeah, I
Shit.
mean, Jesus, we have no idea how. I have no idea how this stuff would. And I mean, what was it? It's just so crazy. That's pretty much all I'm gonna say. Fuck it. But the atmospheric phenomena is that it's visual disturbances such as shimmering air or sudden fog, which is odd, odd.
Camouflage tactics.
Oh, we're getting into the predator type stuff. But the table three is the oval, and I think it's funny they use Tic Tac because it's a brand. It's just a brand of mint.
Right.
But
But it's so iconic.
I know, but I just think it'd be like if we had like one that was like Cheese It, like square.
Yeah, they should have said pill. They should have
Yeah,
said
the
pill.
Tic Tac.
Like,
The size
Tic Tac.
length is typically from 6 to 40 meters. By the way, Jesus Christ, that's double the amount of the
Yeah.
disc and saucer is maintaining proportional width and height.
130 feet.
Yep. Speed is high speed travel and instant acceleration have been frequently reported with no sonic boom.
Jesus,
Signatures.
that's
Yeah, the
crazy.
signatures here are visual identification often notes a lack of contrail, which is
So that means that not only did they break the sound barrier, or no, they moved so fast they but didn't break the sound barrier. That's where the physics is fucking
I'm just saying
fucking around.
that
They
that's
moved
the
fast enough to break the sound barrier but didn't break
telling
it.
you
They slipped
sewing
through
machine,
it.
Nate, sewing machine.
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna tell Kalisha that theory and blow her mind.
The colors white or silver. Surface details uniformly smooth surface with occasional reports of protuberances that could be sensors, propulsion elements, weapons, or unknown technology (TUOs). Behavior is observability to hover, then accelerate suddenly. Some encounters describe them maintaining stable positions despite high winds. Which, okay,
That's like that.
if you're shaped that way, I doubt you're gonna have any problem being aerodynamic.
Right, yeah, just go like around you pretty much. But that being able to accelerate suddenly, that's like that one in that video where it hits the water
Mm-hmm.
super hard and fast but barely made a
Yep,
splash.
it's crazy. Which does mean that they're hitting it with full force, but
Yeah. They're making contact with the water but apparently not breaking the sound
not breaking the
barrier.
ship either.
And
Goddamn.
yeah, yeah.
But the fourth
So
table
that's pretty crazy.
we have is triangular, which is medium to large size, ranging from an F-16, which is a big ass ship. They're not. It's not a ship.
Big old
It's a big old
plane.
plane. Yeah, I'm over here in Starship Land, and I'm like F-16 ships. Nah, it's a plane.
Kinda.
To football size field, which oof, that's big. That's huge.
Yeah.
Um,
300 yard or 100 yards, 300 feet.
yeah,
Excuse me.
That's the biggest one we've seen yet. So, the speed is
That's
capable of
insane.
slow,
That's a big triangle.
precise movement as well as rapid acceleration to speeds beyond conventional aircrafts. Which okay, it's a UAP. I feel like some of this is like we know this. We would know. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, some of it is just reiterating other
Mhm.
stuff, and then some of it is like brand new. You're like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
Like so you really got to it's kind of like in the actual hearing, the whole introductions part, almost all of them said the same thing. They're like, "This is going to be not about Republican or Democrat. It's about being bipartisan and finding out the truth on
Well,
UAPs." And like every single one of them said
I'm
that.
gonna tell you
Like
this table, man. This number 4 is crazy, man, because the colors are black, dark gray, sometimes white lights in the corner, and a central red light, and reports of twinkling stars across the surface, which the Phoenix lights was exactly that, by the way.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, it was.
it's really interesting
The chief
stuff
one.
because the surface details, some of the have been described with visible surface texture like panels or ridges, and occasionally stabilizers. Behaviors: hovering is common, and they have silent flight. The ability to suddenly vanish or accelerate rapidly is frequently reported. Triangular UAPs often with the unique emissions. Triangular UAPs often emit focused beams of light. Toroidal light patterns are sometimes observed to emanate from a central point, leading to rapid acceleration or disappearance. And this is the part,
So that's literally like
yeah,
abduction beams, like tractor
that's
beams,
that's
like you see in
exactly
like
what
sci-fi
that's exactly
movies.
what they're fucking saying in this one. In the last part, these
Yeah.
last two details are the ones that got me. The last one was biological effects, which long-term psychological effects. Long-term, keep that word in mind, such as
Yeah.
anxiety or insomnia, have been noted, alongside feeling of being watched or shared awareness with the triangle UAP.
That part, that one, that's the one that is fucking crazy to me because that implies that the triangle UAP itself is sentient. Shared awareness, you can't have that unless both parties are
Well, you also
sentient.
think,
Like,
is it something like you look at it and you become attached to it with long-term
right.
psychological effects, which being watched or shared awareness, imagine you have a long term effect of that.
Oh yeah.
Did you get marked?
You
Good.
just have an addiction to motor oil.
I'll fucking guess, man. But the table 5 is the boomerang or arrowhead, which wingspans can
Yeah, this one was
exceed
interesting.
30 meters, especially for boomerang shaped UAPs. Arrowheads typically range from F-16 plane size to slightly larger, which isn't crazy,
That's like 100 feet.
but it's one of those ones that you also got to think that it's not like huge in the terms of like the triangles, but still pretty big. Um,
Oh
the
yeah.
speed for this one is exhibits gliding at low speeds and the capacity for high speed flight, which means when they say capacity for it, it can go fast, doesn't often go fast. So visual sightings
Right.
on the signatures are often note a slow, silent flight profile. Um, and the colors typically dark, blending with the night sky, though some reports include glowing edges or tips. Surface details are smooth surfaces with notable aerodynamic design. The arrowhead type shows more angular features. Behaviors known for silent operation and the ability to execute tight turns, which this one's really cool. I like that a lot. Like I think that's super awesome
That is
that they can
cool.
like turn on a dime
The
and just move.
Right. Yeah, that's a big thing too. Like they show them pulling off turns that they're like that would tear our plane in half.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, and these ones is weird. The unique emissions on this one is seen to emit a spherical ball of light from the center line, which particularly envelops the UAP during maneuvers, causing electromagnetic interference with local technologies. A ball.
yeah, that's
It's kind
crazy.
of strange. Um,
Just a EMP
I've
ball.
never really
Just
seen much on the boomerang arrowhead stuff. Not really something I've seen very much. But these table 6 is where we get into the jellyfish UAPs. And these
yep.
ones are highly visible from small, compact forms to larger, more sprawling structures. The speed is movements range from slow drift to rapid acceleration, often unpredictable in nature. Signatures are some reports include unusual sounds or absence of expected aerodynamic noise. Electromagnetic effects are common. Interesting. The colors are often described with
Oh yeah.
bioluminescent qualities or shifting colors, particularly the floating brain or jellyfish types. Which there it is.
Man, that's so trippy to hear.
Mm-hmm. Floating brain. Isn't that weird to hear?
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, that exists, by the way, just in case,
Yeah, and the
like,
surface details or descriptions vary widely, from smooth fluid-like surfaces to complex articulated structures. So it's talking geometric, and so this thing is very creature-like. It's organic in nature.
oh yeah,
Um, and the behaviors demonstrate a
I'm
wide
gonna
range
poke it with a
of
stick.
behaviors from controlled maneuvering to erratic patterns of movement. Shape shifting abilities have been reported.
That's the part that's like, what the
Yeah, it's weird,
fuck?
man. Biological effects. Here we go
And
again.
there's our cryptids. Boom.
Observations include physical sensations of warmth or cold, unexplainable smells, example, ozone,
Oh, dude, that's some ghost shit if I ever heard it.
and they have psychological distress. What the fuck does the ozone smell like? I'm like, what? How do you? I mean, I guess if you're a pilot, you know what
Have
that smells like, but that'd be weird.
have have you ever heard of an air freshener Walmart sells called Ozium?
No,
Okay, well, it comes in 2 scents: lemon, which is delightful, and original, which I assume is what the ozone smells like, which is fucking terrible.
that'd be that'd be kind of funny. It's like, oh, what's that? Oh God! You look up. Oh, yeah, there it is. But this
Yeah.
one's pretty cool. Unique emissions. The floating brain slash jellyfish UAPs occasionally exhibit patterned luminescence or fluctuating lights and colors, typically only visible in the higher end of the electromagnetic spectrum. And then this one is atmospheric
Oh, so we might
phenomena.
not even be able to see the glow.
Nope. And the atmospheric
That's crazy.
phenomena is sudden temperature drops and appearance of clouds have been reported.
That's crazy.
Well, hey, I mean, I'm just saying, man,
Man.
it gets
And
it
I
gets
can't
weird.
believe all of this stuff is happening before GTA 6.
Yeah. Okay, let's be honest. We're gonna have a lot of shit. We're gonna have like interdimensional travel before then, dude.
You want me to be even more honest? I don't even play GTA. The last one I ever played was Vice City.
I'm gonna be even more honest than you. Nate. I've never played a GTA game ever.
Listen, Saints Row 2 had one of the best soundtracks of any video game I've ever played.
Hey,
And Tony Hawk
same.
Underground had a good one
Tony
too.
Hawk Underground was scary. It scared me as a child. Scared me. The little sea creature, the little guy in the sewer, he got me. I was scared.
Oh yeah,
But that
that's
is the
funny, man.
tables for this document, and I hope everyone enjoyed our little discussion here. Because boy, oh boy,
Oh, this was a deep delve. This is gonna be probably our longest episode
absolutely,
yet. This delve was deep as fuck.
absolutely, fucking lutely, and I'm so happy that it came out when it did, and I hope everyone listening
And
just loves it as well.
me too. To the FBI agent spying on us through our phones and stuff. Tell the Pentagon I said, "Where's my money?"
Actually, if the FBI does listen to this on YouTube, I just want to say, um, I did not consent to anything going on here. I was held at gunpoint. Please save me. My address is and then just insert address here. You know where I'm at. You don't have to look it up. You know my IP. Don't worry. Um, After all that, I gotta say thanks everybody for listening to this week. I knew this one was gonna just come out of nowhere, and we'll have another regular episode for you. We're gonna go back to that Exorcist file that we were talking about, and it's gonna be
Exorcist.
really fun and really
So get
awesome.
your pea soup
Get
ready.
your pea soup ready and get ready to munch on some munchies while your house burns down because there's something real interesting going on with that. Ooh, a little information slip out there. But yeah, stay freaky, everybody.
Little spoiler for y'all.
Mm-hmm. Stay freaky. Don't let the FBI get you, and make sure to hold on to your animals, your dogs, whatever. And if you see something in the sky, it's definitely a UAP. You're not crazy. We're not crazy. I wear the tinfoil hat, and my friend Nate here is the most logical being. I'm just saying. Maybe it's me. Maybe I was the
That's right.
UAP.
Me and my buddy Bigfoot get together and discuss this stuff.
You know, we sit there. Sometimes he's a great guy to go get coffee and a donut with. But Nate, the real question is, where are we sticking jellyfish UAPs on the thicket list?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, how caked up are these jellyfish UAPs? Because we got to determine where the cake is on this guy or gal or them, they.
Creature,
Yes.
beast.
Well, I didn't know if it was offensive. I don't want the aliens to show up and then they're like, "Hey, so I listened to your podcast and you called me an it that one time, so I'm gonna have to remove all your
Like,
organs."
sorry, bud, no brain for you. You're like, oh, go ahead, take
Shucks.
some. I don't need
Yeah.
all of it. It's fine.
I'm not using it all.
But yeah,
Take all the trauma, please.
thanks everyone. I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to more a delve deeper growth this year. It's going to be fun, and I hope we get to see more of you guys, and you get to hear more of my insane theories as we grow and see more things. Hope this does well, and I hope you guys have a great night. And I hope that you guys will come and take a delve deeper with us next time with the Exorcist file.
Love you, Delvers.
Yes, yes. Mwah, mwah. And kisses everywhere. Much love, everybody, and we'll catch you later.